out of Legos.
He's a very unassuming guy, very quiet. He's not the kind of person who, when you meet him, you say, whoa. I mean, you meet him and you say, here's a nice guy.
It was nice guy Larry who had the genius insight that turned search into something magical and launched Google. Given the far-reaching consequences of this insight, social, cultural, and certainly financial, you might think that it's incredibly complex. But in fact, in its basic form, it's pretty simple. His insight started with the notion that the web was running a continual popularity contest on its own content, and that the number of times a given web page was linked to by other sites might be a measure of how useful or how relevant it was. Page believed that a link from one website to another is a kind of recommendation, and he and Brin built Google's infant search engine around that conviction. As they put it in a now famous academic paper in 1998, quote, "In essence, Google interprets a link from page A to page B as a vote by page A for page B. Google assesses a page's importance by the votes it receives," end quote. In other words, when a site about, say, Abraham Lincoln has been linked to 15 million times, that means that an awful lot of people have found it useful. Another Lincoln site that's been linked to, say, 11 times has impressed almost no one. Realizing this led Page and Brin to their very own version of the dictate, follow the money. In order to find the most relevant sites, what you had to do was count the links. Larry's insight about link counting was simple but kind of brilliant, and it would eventually be the core of Google's incredible success. But did Larry understand this at the time? Not a chance. The first person ever to see Google in action was one of the boys' computer science professors, Hector Garcia Molina.
We played around in my office for a while looking at the in-link counts, as they're called, how many pages point to your page, of interesting pages. So we looked at the Stanford homepage, and then we compared it with other departments, maybe MIT or Berkeley, who are our competitors, and we had lots of fun seeing which of these pages was more important than the others because it was referenced more highly. When Larry and Sergey launched Google onto the Stanford website, everyone who saw it realized it was something special. Here was a search engine that cared about search again. From their grad student office on the Stanford campus, shown here in this never-before-seen footage, Page and Brin struggled to manage the runaway popularity of their wondrous innovation.
There was so much traffic to Google that it nearly brought the entire Stanford University internet to its knees. And so the university administration said, you must move off campus.
Today we look at Google with its stock market value of more than $200 billion, its vast campus in Silicon Valley, and its culture-shifting influence, and we assume that there must have been investors banging down the door, especially at the height of the dot-com bubble, when some of the dumbest ideas imaginable were being showered with cash. But at the time, the reaction among the money men to Google wasn't, hey, no-brainer. Instead, it was, oy vey, not another search engine. One of the few early dissenting voices to this chorus of doubt was that of Vinod Khosla, a hugely successful venture capitalist, tech guru, and one of the co-founders of Sun Microsystems.
I met them, I loved them, said I'd love to work with them in some way. So I introduced them to Excite. He said, this is a wonderful search engine and a better approach.
To Khosla, the logic was simple. At the time, he was an investor in the search company Excite, and he figured that if Excite bought or licensed Google's search technology, it would give them an advantage against their bitter rival Yahoo, which seemed to be dominating every battle and vanquishing all of its opponents in the portal wars. If Excite wasn't going to be crushed by Yang and Philo's army, it would need some fresh artillery. As any military commander will tell you, the key to winning a war is striking the right alliances. Now, in the hopes of getting Excite to team up with Google, Khosla arranged a meeting for Excite's chief technologist, Graham Spencer, to meet with Larry and Sergey at this sushi restaurant.
It's a pretty large restaurant, but they have private rooms in the back, and so we walked into the back. The Google team was already there. It was a very low table. Everyone was sitting on the floor. We took off our shoes and sat down and started talking about search.
The Google boys arrived with high hopes of securing a lifeline for their project. They'd done a test to demonstrate how much better their search results were than Excite's. Now, firing up their laptops, they showed the results to Spencer.
Google's technology definitely seemed impressive. They were showing us results that looked good. I was definitely intrigued.
Spencer went back and told Excite's CEO, George Bell, about Google's technology, and so did Kozlov.
And there was a lot of resistance. And they'd always come back with a fairly rigid view that search was generic, we can do this, we are almost as good, it doesn't matter. And it wasn't the issue of price, because Google was very cheap then. They could have bought it for something like $1 million. It's worth $100 billion today.
Wait, let's rerun this. Excite could have bought Google for about $1 million? That's a pittance in Silicon Valley terms. The company had just walked away from what for them would have been the deal of a lifetime.
And sure, in hindsight, I'll put my hand up and say, I look dumb. But people didn't think you could make money from search, or people thought you could make some money from search. They certainly didn't think it was a minute.